So now that we have a government established, we're going to look at the first president. Key term, Judiciary Act of 1789. Hopefully we know that George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was voted in and elected unanimously, and on April 30th, 1789, he took the first oath of office. John Adams was the first vice president. Now, President Washington was very smart. He knew that no office in the government, the new government, created more suspicion among the American people than the office of the president. Many feared that the president would become like a king, but everyone trusted Washington. And so he was well aware of these difficulties and knew that he would establish the traditions for the future of the United States and U.S. presidents. One way that he would establish precedents that would follow for years to come was how people addressed the president. John Adams, his vice president, believe it or not, suggested His Highness, the President of the United States. As you might have guessed, Washington did not agree with being called His Highness. He thought it made him sound like a king, and quite frankly, it does. So, he chose Mr. President. That is still the term that we use today, Mr. President. Washington also had a cabinet. It was created by the Constitution, giving Congress the power to create departments that would be known as the cabinet. This is a key term that you should know. The cabinet is the advisors to the president. The Constitution, however, doesn't really put a whole lot of restrictions on it. Who does the cabinet report to? How many cabinet members or departments are there? But by the summer of 1789, Congress decided to establish three. The first one was the State Department. Its job was not to handle issues in the states, but to handle issues with other nations outside of the United States. The first Secretary of State was Thomas Jefferson. The second cabinet department to be created was the Department of the Treasury. Again, to handle financial matters, that one's pretty common. And the first Secretary of the Treasury was Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton revolutionized the way that the federal government created and handled money. So we're going to talk about Hamilton extensively. The War Department was established to prepare the military when needed. It's no longer called the War Department. It's now called the Department of Defense. We found War Department to be a little barbaric. And the first Secretary of War was Henry. Now, Congress also created two additional positions to aid the president. The first was the Attorney General, to handle all legal affairs. They're supposed to check with the Constitution and have a basic understanding of the Constitution and know whether or not this is legal or not. The first Attorney General was Edmund Randolph. They also established the Postmaster General to handle the post office. All postal service was to be overseen by the Postmaster General, and the first one was named Samuel Osgood. So we also need to look at the judicial branch and the Judiciary Act of 1789. Now, the Constitution briefly mentions a Supreme Court, but leaves most of the details out to Congress. And the dispute arises between favoring a national legal system or a state legal system. So a compromise was made at the Act of 1789. What this act does, key term, is it establishes a federal court system of 13 districts and 3 circuit courts. State laws would remain, but the federal court system would have the power to reverse state decisions. And above the federal system was the Supreme Court, and it would be the final authority on many issues. Most issues, the Supreme Court is the final. Now, John Jay was appointed by George Washington and approved by the first Congress as being the first Supreme Court Chief Justice. So, which district is the state of Wyoming in? The state of Wyoming is currently in the 10th District Court, and they've actually cut it from 13 down to 10. So, the Bill of Rights. States had supported the Constitution on the condition that a Bill of Rights would be added. Remember, that was one of the major compromises to get the Constitution ratified. James Madison proposed a list of possible constitutional amendments. I believe there were like 200 possible constitutional amendments. And the states ratified or approved of 10 of those amendments. And in December 1791, these amendments were titled the Bill of Rights and added to the U.S. Constitution. They become a binding document added onto the Constitution, a permanent addition. There's only to this day 27 constitutional amendments. So in the course of our history, the first 10 were extremely, extremely important, and only a few more have really been added in our history.